Mr. Speaker.
Call Portal Williams.
Talofa malo le soiform, Mr. Speaker, and whawhitai te le lava. Mr. Speaker, let's not forget the why this bill has come to the House. The genesis of this, the local bill, which became a government bill, and that was actually at the request of Riccarton Racecourse, because they were looking for an opportunity to stay viable in the city, to be able to continue to have that fantastic facility of the racecourse, to continue to be able to provide the race meetings. And this was a way that they saw to be able to do that by allowing for part of the land that is the reserve of the Riccarton Racecourse to be used for housing. So firstly, I must acknowledge the fact that that the Trust Board and the trustees of Riccarton Racecourse are really mindful of the significance and the history of that particular course, and wanting to ensure that we could retain that facility within the Christchurch city. And it has got a long history, 138 years, as my colleague, the Honourable Ruth Dyson, says. So it has history, it has presence, and when you're there, you can see that it's a much-loved facility that we would dearly hate to lose. So let's start from that place, Mr. Speaker, about why this bill actually originally came to the House. But in order for the Racecourse Trust Board to be able to do what they are doing, of course we need enabling legislation on the Christchurch Racecourse Reserve Act, because it is part of it is a reserve, and we need to pass this legislation in order that we can take that 40 hectares and use it for the purposes of housing, Mr. Speaker. So I want to commend the Select Committee for holding the committee meeting in Christchurch. But as I recall, Mr. Speaker, at the time it was under some pressure from the Labour MPs that occurred, that we were sure that people who wouldn't ordinarily submit to the Select Committee would actually find it an opportunity to do so. Indeed you did, and it was actually really important that the Select Committee went to Christchurch to see the racecourse and also to hear the submitters. But as I recall, over that period of time, it was a truncated period for gaining submissions, because it was the summertime, as I recall it. It's only a few weeks of submission time. Over Christmas, Mr. Chairman of the Select Committee over there, as you recall, but people go on holiday. And I know that as a member from the Christchurch Labour team, we were very clear that we wanted to ensure that people had as much opportunity to submit as possible. So being there with the Select Committee to hear the submissions was a very important part of that. I want to commend the work of Dr. Megan Woods and her local community, because when the idea of taking some of the land at the racecourse and using it for housing first came up, of course the local people were very concerned that they would lose access to very valuable space, recreation space, where they, lots of people would walk their dogs, would meet and walk together, and it's a beautiful space, and they were right to be concerned. And I know Dr. Megan Woods hosted public meetings where local people could talk about their concerns, and they feared the loss of their facility. They were also concerned about the increased number of houses and what that would do to the infrastructure, particularly in terms of roading and traffic and public transport. There were some real concerns that it would become it's quite a busy part of Christchurch, and there were concerns that it would become very difficult, particularly at peak times, to get in and out of properties and around the streets. So they had some very, very real concerns. I know that Dr Woods also ensured that the concerns of the community actually reached the ears of the board at Riccarton Racecourse, and they were able to use that information to address those concerns. There's a very strong partnership with Ngāi Tahu all through this work. And Ngāi Tahu, as I understand it, will have a significant role in managing the project and developing the homes going forward. I recall at a meeting asking about why the exemplar status was not continuing, and so an exemplar project around housing has to have a certain percentage of affordable homes. It has to address the key issues of amenities and urban design. It has to look at infrastructure and transport issues, transport planning. The reason this project, which started out as an exemplar project, actually didn't continue to be an exemplar project was because, other than the percentage of affordable homes, those other key issues around infrastructure and transport planning weren't, I don't think, addressed sufficiently enough for it to retain that status. I recall the Christchurch City Council, there were some Christchurch City councillors that had some concerns around April, May of 2015 when the announcements were first made, and some of them were concerned about the rationale for rezoning. Over the course of a year or so, those concerns have been addressed, and the council in 2016 became the formal promoter of the bill. We're looking forward to the 600 homes that are going to be built. About a third of those are going to be under $450,000. And while that in Auckland terms seems very cheap, we still have some issues about concerns that we have that our house prices have gone up significantly in Christchurch, and our incomes haven't gone up to match the pace of house price inflation at the same rates. So while the government is, the Minister, in reference to his speech earlier on, is crowing about the number of houses that have been built in Christchurch, that very significant factor that actually incomes in Christchurch haven't increased at the same rates has not been addressed as far as I'm concerned. One of my colleagues was just saying what's going to happen to the Riccarton market. It's a great market on a Sunday. In fact, it's a place where you can get just about anything. Well, those of us who live in New Brighton who thought, hey, here's an opportunity for the Riccarton market to actually move to New Brighton, to become part of the seaside market, well, we were clean out of luck because in this bill, the land that's going to be used for housing actually means that the market can stay in situ on site and continue to be a favourite place for my colleague Riccarton and myself to go on a Sunday morning. So I'm sorry, New Brighton Seaside Market, we've missed out on that one. Mr. Speaker, it's going to be a fantastic a place to live. While the Select Committee was there, we had the opportunity of viewing the land. That's going to be where the houses are built, and for some lucky people, they're going to be able to watch the horses go down the home straight. And it will be a great place to live. So I commend the work of the Select Committee, and I'm looking forward to being there when the houses are built. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kia ora.